most people in our generation feel like we're left behind compared to where our parents' generation was. And this is because of a lot of factors, including increased competition, inflation, and late-stage capitalism. So in order to be successful nowadays, there's more thought that you need to have in your career path. In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 principles from Naval, Ravikants, which are going to help you to be successful no matter what career path or business you choose, so that no matter what happens with AI, competition, or global events, you will be able to be financially free.
So let's go through some of those insights that I want to talk about with you today. So the first insight that I want to talk about that's probably the most important is to play long-term games. So when we think about business, when we think about relationships, when we think about industries, when we think about our work and our life, we want to set ourselves up so that we can continue playing the same game, the same business, work with the same people, the same networks over time, and work with people and industries that we feel we can continue doing for the long run. Another way of looking at this is, who are the people that you interact with day to day in your current work or in your current business? Are those the types of people you would want to continue working with for decades? So if you're 25 now, would you want to work with those people when you're 35, 45, 55? If not, you probably want to transition towards an industry or working with a team or working in an environment that better suits you, that you feel like you're collaborative, that you're able to work with these people in terms of their integrity, in terms of their knowledge, as well as their ability to perform. Another aspect is knowing yourself. So are you somebody that in your industry, in your job, in whatever you're studying, can you stay in that for decades? Because if not, then you're never going to be able to play a long-term game. If you don't love what you're doing, then eventually you're going to get burnt out, or you're going to switch and try to do something else. And that's not ideal. Once we've solidified the industries, the regions, or things that we want to focus on, it's really critical that we play long-term games. The other aspect or way to look at this is, what type of game are you trying to play? So what I mean by this is, are you just trying to meet your boss's quarterly goals so that you can get a paycheck and potentially a bonus at the end of the year? If that's the game you're trying to play, then it's a very short-term game. It's a game that's subject to very short-term goal setting. There's nothing much bigger than that. Versus, are you doing a business project? Are you working in an industry that you actually intend to somehow transform in the long term? Do you have a 5-year or 10-year goal? And that's what you need to figure out too for yourself. Whatever you're working on, whatever your industry, whatever your area of study, what is something in the long term you can start building towards? The idea of compounding, or basically doing even a small action consistently over years and years and even decades, applies to many areas of life. It doesn't just apply to business. It doesn't just apply to investing. It applies also to fitness. It applies to relationships. It applies to impact and how your life continues to build a sphere of influence wherever you are. So it's actually incredibly important. For me, some of the fitness habits that I built, starting from grade 10 or 11 in high school, all the way out through college, and then even beyond in the professional world, they have paid off hugely in my life. They have compounded. Now I'm able to run marathons. I'm able to continue lifting weights and be at a good, healthy, physical aesthetic, I guess, because of those habits. And I want to continue compounding those habits. In terms of longevity as well, those habits, the running, the aerobic fitness, the muscular strength, the metabolic efficiency, those benefits will continue to compound as I get older. So I'm 32 years old now. When I'm 42, when I'm 52, when I'm 62, if I can continue compounding these habits, then at that point when I'm in my 60s, I'm going to have so much of that health built up that I'm going to be in a lot better shape than somebody that ignores this and waits until they're 55 or 60. Maybe they're overweight, maybe they have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, or they have some other ailments. It's a lot harder to reverse at that point. So even the small basic habits are going to be important going forward for all of us in whatever we do. And the second principle that I want to bring up is that there are many things that your job will not pay you for, but are critical for your long-term success. And Naval brings up some of these concepts. So one of them obviously is health and fitness. Health and fitness is not something you're gonna get directly paid for by your job. Even if you actually just didn't work out all year and ate like total crap, as long as you met the minimum requirements of your job, you'll probably still be employed at the end of the year. In fact, there's probably many people that live like that. Their health is deteriorating and they're neglecting their health because of the stress of their job or the stress of their lifestyle or their heavy workloads, but no one really cares as long as you're just meeting the expectations of the job. However, if you neglect your fitness, your health and fitness, eventually you're gonna have a big crisis that's gonna come up. That's a ticking time bomb. The second thing that Naval talks about a lot is reading. And Warren Buffett obviously famously reads somewhere between 300 and 500 pages a day. And he's done that for literally decades, probably since his 20s, all the way now till age 94. Think about that compounding knowledge. But in the short term, your job probably isn't going to pay you more, whether you read a book a week, a book a month, or don't read at all. And in fact, many Americans do not read. They might read a book a year to completion. So many do not, they don't read. And in the short term, it may not make a difference. Your job doesn't care. Continue doing your job. As long as you're meeting the requirements, you'll probably even get promoted at some point at some modest time scale. And then the third thing that Naval talks about is finding specific knowledge. So he's coined this term called specific knowledge. What specific knowledge is to Naval is basically finding out something hidden about a certain industry or developing some certain talent that is very hard to replicate. It's usually something technical or creative in nature. So if you become a very specialized engineer in a specific type of construction, specific type of manufacturing, and it's something that's not taught in the textbooks. So you've obviously learned engineering through courses, you've learned engineering through the basics of the intense education process and apprenticeship process. But if you can go past that, go past your day job and actually become a specialist in a certain area, obtain knowledge of how to build things in a very specific way, then you've attained this specific knowledge. You're gonna become very valuable in the marketplace. So I hope that's clear. Specific knowledge is something that is impossible to automate as well. The third principle is to find work that feels like play. Naval talks about how some people really enjoy a specific thing that's kind of weird, it's kind of out there, but to them, it feels effortless. It feels like a flow state when they do it. And to others, it looks like really hard work. To others, they might see me making this video as really hard work, and they would not want to do it for whatever reason. Maybe they're shy on camera. Maybe they don't like writing scripts. Maybe they're not into thinking deep thoughts about personal development or about Naval Ravikants or whatever else. So to them, it feels like hard work. You could pay them maybe and they would do it, but they probably wouldn't want to do it. For me, this is kind of like a passion. I really enjoy it. Again, I did this back when I was in high school and first couple years of college. I was doing fitness videos at the time. So I love the impact of it. I love the creative aspect of it. So my question for you is, what are areas of your life where they feel like play, and how could you bring that into a career, a business, or an entrepreneurial venture? It's a really hard one to think about. It really is. It's not easy, especially because we have been told from very young ages that we just need to just do a job. You just need to do a job. Work's not fun. You just got to do it. And if you do it, you get paid, you should be happy. Even if you don't like your job, even if you don't like your boss, just work, save, get a house, pay the mortgage. Don't worry, by age 65, you'll be fine. But I think there's a better way, and Naval brings that up here. Because basically, if you work in something that feels like play, or mostly feels like play, or feels like at least a flow state that you enjoy and you get meaning out of it, then you've essentially kind of retired, because you're actually doing something you like. You're not waiting for a future when you're 65 to live your life. If me at age 32, if I can do things, if I can fill most of my day doing things I really like, and that somehow meet a market need, and I get paid for that, that's an amazing situation to be in. As long as you're able to make some money in the short term and find that area where you feel like in this job or business or entrepreneurial venture, you feel that state of flow and you feel even maybe a sense of play and enjoyment, that's probably something you should go for, even if the other options give you more money in the short run. Because again, that's an area where you're gonna be able to play the long-term game. That's an area where you're gonna feel fulfilled and happy to wake up every morning to do whatever you're doing. I wanna read a quote that Steve Jobs said before he passed away. He said, "You've gotta find what you love. And that is as true for your work as it is for your lovers. Your work is gonna fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do." So there's kind of actually an interesting overlap here when you think about this, where if you love what you do, not only are you've kind of won the game because you're doing work that you like. You're happy to get up every day to work. You've kind of won the game in that sense. But not only that, the second thing is that's probably a game you're going to be able to play for the long term. So you're kind of going back to principle one, playing long-term games. You're going to be able to build maybe a network in that area. You're going to build longevity in that area. You're going to continue compounding in that area. And the third thing is you're probably going to get that specific knowledge. So even if you're doing something where right now maybe you love it and you might have some talent in that area, but maybe you're not the best at it yet. But if you really enjoy it and you consistently do it over the long term, you're probably going to get that specific knowledge. You're probably going to find that expertise. You're going to develop that personal brand or that personal reputation in that area, and you're going to become excellent at it. And that's how you become great. That's how Steve Jobs became the best tech product designer and entrepreneur in the world. And Apple, I think today, is still the most valuable company today. And that's based off of Steve's legacy and passion. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. The fourth principle is that the most important questions when it comes to work and life, and you can call it business, are what, where, and who. What that means is what are you going to be doing in terms of business or career? What? What is the problem area? What is the industry? What are you working towards? The second thing is where. So where are you going to do that? What city? That's a really important thing to think about as you're starting your career or even as you progress through your career. If you grew up in a small town in the US, Canada, or some other country, maybe that's not the best place for you to be, depending on what you actually want to do. Maybe there's a better place for you to go to be around people that are going to push you in your craft. They're going to elevate your game, so to speak, or build your network. So that's the where portion. And then who? Who are you working with? Are you working with people that are honest? Are you working with people that you enjoy their company and that value you? Are you working with people that are smart, that are talented, that are hardworking? These are the people you want to surround yourself with, because if you continue working with those people, you'll probably continue to build these collaborations over time, and you're going to achieve great things, because we can't do everything on our own. And also, who we become is often a product of who we're around. So if you're around people that live miserable lives, around people that are gonna be backbiting and cutthroat, people that are lacking integrity, people that lie, they steal, then you're gonna always be in fights. You're always gonna be in battles. You're never gonna be able to build those actual collaborations that are gonna be able to focus on a goal and achieve those goals in the long run. You're always gonna be moving back and forth between different groups of people, because you're never gonna be able to find that group that you can unite with to achieve your grand mission. In terms of what, we've already talked about this. The what is really something that you really enjoy doing. That's the ideal, where work becomes kind of play almost, and that you can develop that specific knowledge. And the where, well, that's for you to think about and depends where you live. Oftentimes going to a major city or a mid-sized city, somewhere where you can build a network and build that community and also get business opportunities, those are important. But it depends. Some people like smaller towns. Depending on the work you're doing. But you got to think about that. Where are you going to be the happiest, the healthiest, and have the best opportunity to kind of build that network, build that group of people that's going to allow you to take things to the next level. And lastly, for number 5, Naval mentions that at the end of the day, life is a single player game. The way to interpret this, I think, is that at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. And you can't really rely on anyone to steer you in the right direction, because at the end of the day, you only know yourself. You're the one that knows yourself. You know your passions, you know your talents, you know what you want to do in this world. I think about my friend Nikhil. So he was my first guest on the Break the Formula podcast, which I launched earlier this year. And Nikhil, or otherwise known as Captain Sinbad, talks about in that podcast, his father wanted Nikhil to go to medical school. So Nikhil obliged and went to college and studied biology and things like that. He did that not out of passion, but just because his father wanted him to be a doctor. And in the end, Nikhil realized that he did not want to be a doctor, because he was always passionate about drama and being in front of an audience, putting together narratives and scripts and sketches, and really that's what his passion was. And so he ended up not applying to medical school or not going to medical school, kind of doing odd jobs for a number of years until he figured out the YouTube game. And now he's actually working on his own film. So that's an example. He could be right now, if he kept working, he probably could have gone to medical school. He's a smart guy. But would he be happy? At the end of the day, life is a single player game in a certain sense, because it's up to you to figure out what you want to do in your life. You can't just live for other people and expect that to fulfill you in the end. To quote Alex Hormozy, He said along the lines of, some people's dreams for your life will have to die for you to pursue yours. So I hope that it was helpful. If you found this channel interesting, you found some of these ideas interesting, perhaps you've seen some of the podcast episodes I've done over the past couple months, and maybe you found those interesting. Basically, if you are committed to personal growth, entrepreneurship, figuring out how to live an exceptional life, please consider subscribing, liking the video, maybe commenting, giving some of your thoughts. That would be really appreciated. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.